Welcome into your odds checker betting preview for this week's RBC Heritage. I'm Rick Gehman, that right there, Geoff Fienberg. Geoff, are you dealing with any Masters hangover?
It was easy to fall asleep last night, Rick. It was an exhausting weekend, and I was just watching a lot of golf. It's not like I was active or anyway, but I always tell myself I'm just gonna kind of ignore the Heritage till like later in the day. And honestly, before 8 a.m., I'm already looking at stuff. So no rest, like just right back on the wheel.
And we go to, I would argue, one of the more unique courses on the PGA Tour. It's Harbor Town. It's in Hilton Head, South Carolina. It's a Pete Dye design, features tree-lined fairways, very small greens, and precision being asked of you both off the tee and approach. Geoff, we've seen historically some longer shots can win, some short guys off the tee who can just kind of put themselves into position. This is kind of wide open, is it not?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. We've had a nice collaboration between really deep winners and guys, a mixture of guys that are pretty much, sort of inside that 20-1 number in the last 6 years or so, Rick. I will say the one common theme, and this doesn't mean I'm ignoring any guys that can just crush the ball, but the one common theme with pretty much all these winners, your Kuchers, your Furiks, your long shots, they're all just very like meticulous golfers. They don't overpower golf courses, I guess would seemingly be the common thread of the winners here. But, we've seen Bryson finish second, and I would have no doubt if we're not shocked at all if a JT or DJ just kind of overpowered a place like this, because it always feels like that's possible, but we always end up getting one of those prototype Heritage winners in the end.
Yeah, they're going to try. Some of them are going to try to take some angles here that others cannot. But I'm glad you mentioned both Justin Thomas and Dustin Johnson, because the field's pretty strong for the week after a major championship, or at least it's top heavy. Collin Morikawa and Justin Thomas, if we're looking at the odds checker grid, co-favorites 14-1, with Cam Smith checking in at 16-1, and Dustin Johnson and Patrick Cantlay rounding out the golfers 20-1 or shorter at 20-1 here. Geoff, how do we look at the top of this board considering all these guys played the Masters last week?
Yeah, all of them made the Masters. All of the made the cut at the Masters. I don't know. Outside of Cam Smith, I wouldn't dig too much into the grind that any of them faced. I don't want to diminish it in any way. I will say I've yet to run to bet any of these guys under 20-1 yet this week. It does sort of feel like it does sort of feel like the prototypical course that Collin Morikawa can really put a lot of his skills on display. If I was forced to make a decision, Morikawa or complete opposite DJ, who comes here regularly because of his RBC ties. That being said, you never know which level of DJ you're going to get interested or disinterested, but he's got a run of top finishes here. So no decision yet under 20-1, and I don't know that I'll get there in the end, to be honest.
Yeah, I haven't either. I was joking with you before we went hot. The scrubs that I'm going to bet this week, I didn't have to rush and get, because the triple digits are still going to be there by the time I get there. We'll talk about some of those guys, but let's continue on our path. 22-1, Matt Fitzpatrick, Shane Lowry, Corey Connors, also in the mid to high 20s. And then you get straight to Daniel Berger leading off with Sung Jae Im and Webb Simpson and Joaquin Niemann in the 30s. Geoff, is there a bet to be made here?
Yeah, so my card will start in the 30s. At the moment, at least it has. I got to admit, like a lot of golf fans, though, I got to keep circling around Shane Lowry. Like, there's no red ink through him yet. Even Matthew Fitzpatrick, the number, 22-1. I mean, no rush to bet it. Like, I could see it maybe getting to 25 before it gets to 20. But this seems to be like the prototypical ideal club down course for a guy that has been so consistent. So those are a couple I will be looking at, but it is that Joaquin Niemann 35-1, that Sung Jae Im 33-1, that Daniel Berger 31-1. That is where you will most likely see my card begin, Rick. I'm attracted to all of those options, specifically Niemann, well, all of them, to be honest, pretty equally, but I think that's a nice number. And that would, I'd be playing it all sorts of ways. A guy that had a really bad weekend at the Masters, a guy that did quite well at the Masters, and a guy that kind of finished middle of the pack. But I'm not overly concerned. And you look at those list of past winners, the majority of them actually did tee it up in the Masters the week before. So I am not concerned too much about any sort of post-major wherewithal.
No, neither am I. The Daniel Berger line caught me off guard in a good way. I like that at 31-1. You got to use the grid here. Sung J M available as short as 20-1 in some places, as long as 33-1 in others. So if you have the ability to shop, use it. Same thing for Jordan Spieth, if that's something of note as well. Spieth leads off the 40s, Jeff, with Russell Henley, Terrell Hatton, Billy Horschel. And then we get into the 50s with Alex Noren, Kevin Kisner, Mav McNeely. This is where I start to feel comfortable, the 40s and the 50s. Some of these kind of scrubbier guys who can kind of just get it out there, try to catch them in the right week and figure it out from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to say this, like I started our video by acknowledging that it seems like we've kind of either been at the real top or super long shots. Granted, we did see Wes Bryan and Brendan Grace win in the range I like to bet, but you said it, Rick. Like my betting card, 30-70. I feel like very comfortable being able to build a nice betting card in that range. And then, having some fun attacking some triple digit guys. That being said, the field is just a little stronger than I would like when it, comes to some of those. But Billy Horschel, 42-1. It's not a bet I've made yet, but it's because I never bet Billy, and it's burned me a couple times, but that just seems like a really, really fair number. It's hard to know what to make of Hatton, who had a horrible weekend at the Masters, and then had some really weird post-round comments, Rick. And now he's even got a new caddy this week because his regular caddy's got to have some leg procedures done, and he acknowledges he doesn't even know. He's not even like friends with the new caddy. It's just like an arranged marriage that his current caddy set up. So a lot of unknowns there. I am looking at Maverick McNeely. I don't know about you, but a guy that's played great here before. The irons continue to trend. Small greens here. He always loves Pebble Beach. We love betting him at Pebble Beach, or a lot of people do. But sneaky Mav McNeely in the 50s and Kevin Na at 66-1 is a bet I've already made, Rick.
Okay, I have not pulled the trigger on these yet, but I look at Noren, I look at Hadwin, but McNeely's the guy that I really like. I think he's on an upward trajectory. Jeff, you nailed the comp to Pebble Beach. There's also an argument to be made that the short game areas around these greens much easier statistically at Harbor Town than some other places, which is good because McNeely tends to lose strokes around the green. This is the range where you can get numbers from all over the place. Siwoo Kim as short as 35, as long as 55. Tommy Fleetwood, a little bit of a resurgence, as short as 35, as long as 45. Odds makers, Jeff, still not really sure what to do with this range, and the grid is, as usual, a very valuable tool.
Yeah, and I mean, sticking in this range and seeing something that's popping off the grid, a prototypical player, when you list the past winners here, Brian Harman's name would fit into that like a perfectly fitting glove. Yep. I'm seeing 100-1 on Brian Harman. I'm seeing 50-1 on Brian Harman using that odds checker grid.
Yeah, there's so much, like everyone is so live this week. You absolutely love to see it. So I agree with you. I will consist my card will consist of mostly guys in that 50-70, but we've seen Kevin Streelman play well as of late. I might get there, but I'm getting near triple digits, Jeff. And this is a range that has come through at this event in the past. Are you willing to invest in the early part of this 100-1 range?
Yes, of course. I am a little concerned, though. As I mentioned, the field is stronger than I would like. Seeing more Kawa and Thomas here kind of bothers me. I expect DJ here because of sponsorship. But we've made the Pebble Beach comp and argued that maybe that could be a thing. I joked with our friend Pat Mayo that I don't know whether that's something we're just holding to Mav McNeely. But then shouldn't that point us to Tom Hoge? Yes. Sitting at 95-1 on this grid, as low as 65-1. So just in front of 100, Tom Hoge is a guy I could be looking at. But as we get to 100, Rick, I know Aaron Wise has been a guy of yours early in the season. You might be getting sucked in again. It's not exactly the event based on past winners you want to go to not being able to putt very well. But Aaron Wise is a guy that did kind of catch my attention staring at triple digits.
I'll stare long and hard at it. I don't know what I'll end up doing. I've lost a lot of money on Aaron Wise. Why wouldn't I just lose a little bit more at 100 to 1 and see what happens? The Tom Hoagie stuff's really interesting because you mentioned 95 to 1 is the longest you can get him on the grid, as short as 65. And if you like, I'm not always a huge fan, Jeff, of shots from 175 to 200 yards. I don't love that stat. I think it's a flawed stat, but at places like this and Pebble Beach, where everyone basically hits to the same spot, there's like twice as many shots here from 175 to 200 as the tour average. And Tom Hoagie's the best in the field from that range, which is kind of a little bit exciting.
Yeah. And just something to think of. A guy, again, you kind of put it out there. There's anything I would say would almost hurt Tom Hoagie's case. So between that comp and that iron range peaking here, that could be something that I am looking at. The triple digits, though, they're always very enticing, Rick. They're a friend of program, Bo Hostler.
Yeah.
He's been contending, seeing 175s to 100s. If you believe in the full, like Anaban Lahiri is another guy whose game kind of can suit this place perfectly. He's been having some nice form. So there are some decisions to be made. My ability to bet the hundreds will really depend on how hard I play those 30s, because there are, as I mentioned, 3 guys I really like in Neiman, Im, and Berger up there.
Yeah, so you named 2 of the guys I really like, Honorbahn and Bo Hostler. I got to run them out just a little bit longer. Joel Damon would be probably the 3rd guy, 150 to 1. He keeps the ball in play. You just got to keep the ball in play. Give yourself a chance. If you're playing from inside the trees, inside prison, you are just in big trouble. So yeah, I could make a case for a lot of these guys, but those are the ones, maybe along with Kramer Hickok, that I will probably end up just sprinkling a little bit on here.
Yeah, and as long as we don't see that, peak performance from Morikawa, who I believe was in the final group with Stuart Sink last year. So I don't know if you noticed, I'm definitely afraid of every time I'm making a bet, I'm like, will he be able to beat Morikawa? Stuart Sink we'll see if it can happen again.
Okay, so this week, and then I believe next week is the Zurich, Jeff. So we're gonna get the team event. I've been looking at the list of names. How about that, bud?
Okay, well, I feel bad for Ryan Palmer because he's going to get blamed for being the only thing that might cool down Scotty Scheffler at the moment. Like, it's not a good spot for Palmer. I was like, great spot for him. It might not be. Like, you don't want anyone hitting a ball other than Scotty Scheffler right now. And if you don't win, who are they going to blame? Scotty Scheffler or you, buddy?
It's amazing the partners he has gotten in that event.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Spieth, Rahm, now Scotty Scheffler. It's amazing.
It's a rule. It's a rule. You get number 1 in the world, you get the automatic berth of getting to play with Ryan Palmer at the team event.
Just for kicks. So Morikawa and Victor are playing together. What are their odds next week? What's your guess?
Super low. But as I've joked many a times to people in my age range, that's like, Kelly Taylor and Kelly Kapowski, like tag team, like teaming up for an event in the early 90s. So I'm all fired up for that team. Clear. Yeah, definite chalk. They'll be 10 to 1, maybe 8 to 1.
Yeah.
We've seen some power teams show up there before and historically never do that great. So that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, it's not as easy as it looks, right? It's the chalk doesn't always come through, but we're going to talk about that more in depth next week. But for now, we're going to focus on the RBC Heritage. Geoff Fienberg can be found on Twitter at GFienberg17, and you can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been your odds checker betting preview for this week's RBC. Good luck.